Well, we're joined now by consumer champion Dominic Littlewood. Good morning to you. I'm sure you've heard this 1,000 times before, but
more than that.
But the problem is, when you go round to the house and you're viewing it 3 or 4 times, it still feels like it's their house. So you don't really feel like you can go around checking absolutely everything.
You're right. And that's why most people get a surveyor to go around and check a property. But surveyors are fairly limited on what they can and can't do. And if they go into a room and there's heavy furniture up against a wall, they're not necessarily allowed to pull that away. If a loft access point is blocked, they're not allowed to move furniture to get in there, and they're also not allowed to lift carpets. So a lot of things can be hidden by homeowners, and you've got to look for those sort of warning signs. You know, if you walk in a front room and there's a sideboard where you wouldn't really normally put one, that's where maybe you've got the TV, you've got to start thinking, hang on, what's behind that? Because there could be a whole load of damp on the floor. Yeah. You know, so you need to be careful.
And you talk about these surveys, because when I bought my house, it wasn't an old Victorian house, so I did the sort of basic one, but you get the more expensive one, don't you? That's the more thorough one.
Yeah.
But it's quite an expense, and you think, God, I've got to pay for stamp duty, I've got to pay for everything. So is the more, you know, extreme survey, the really deep one, the best way to go, as well as using your own
Well, they're obviously
common
much
sense?
better. You pay for what you get. They're about £1,000, the best ones you can get. But a surveyor is still not required to move furniture, and if he can't get into a room or an access point, he doesn't have to, but he has to report it. That's the important thing. He has to put it down on the report and say, look, I was unable to inspect this area because of furniture.
Right, so it should sort of mark a bit of a red flag in your mind when you see that. So you've got some sort of top tips to look for, haven't you? That when you go into a house, look at these things. Go on, what have you got? One
of the worst things that, certainly for surveyors and homeowners, is laminate flooring, because you virtually can't lift it. And it's a big membrane of plastic sheeting. There could be all sorts of problems underneath that. There could be damp, there could be mould, there could be rot, there could be anything. Now, a surveyor can't lift it either. So if laminate flooring's down, and it looks like it's been down quite recently, I would actually ask the homeowner some awkward questions about that.
What is the awkward question?
Well, I'd say to them, how long has that been down? Why have you put that down? If we agree on a price and it's going through with a sale, would you mind if I got a builder to lift some of that and have a look at the floorboards?
Okay.
And if they're very offish and say, no, we don't want anything touched at all, you know, then I think you need to start being extra careful.
You've got another couple?
Yeah, certainly. Fresh paint. Why would somebody have fresh paint? Certainly in one room, if there's one wall painted, particularly a ceiling, that's the sort of thing that could be hiding damp or mould, or even cracks that have been filled with some sort of filler and put paint over it. So fresh paint, be cautious. A lot of people tons up their houses when they're selling them, but, you know, just look out for that as an obvious sign.
Yeah.
Mould's a bad one. Now, people quite often clear mould off a windowsill, but need to look for condensation on the windows. If there's condensation, there's probably mould somewhere. And some people have even put masking tape over rotten windowsills and painted over that, which looks great, but you put your finger through and it crumbles.
Yeah, you just got to be buyer aware, haven't you? That's the thing.
Totally. But also, use your instinct, you know. Your gut tells you things your head doesn't know sometimes.
Yeah, all right. I wish you all had your gut. And we'd all be saving ourselves a lot of bother. Thanks very much, Dom. Really good advice.